Hey everybody, this is Mike. All right, so today I want to ask the question. Now that you're out of your toxic relationship with your NPD or your BPD, or even if you're in it and you're still trying to get out, what do you do to heal? But now that you're out, now that you've made the decision or you've been discarded and you're out, how do you heal? Are you able to heal yourself? Should you get into another relationship right away? Can you heal by finding somebody that will love you, that can distract you from your pain and give you the real thing? What should you do to heal? How can you heal? So before I go any further, I am not a licensed counselor or therapist. So do not take anything I say as any replacement for actual therapy. And any actions you take based on this video is completely your responsibility. All right, so what should you do? How can you heal yourself? And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at a comment that was left. And so I'll just get right into that because this comes up. A few different things come up in this comment which are based on that question. What should you do after? How can you heal? Should you get back into another relationship? So let me just go ahead and get right into it. Again, I'm going to read from a comment. Bear in mind, if you come onto my channel, you leave a comment, the whole world can see your comment. So I figure it's fair game. If you don't want me to take your comment and use it in a video, either positively or critically, then don't leave a comment. Leaving honest questions is a good thing for me because that way you don't put yourself in danger. You ask a question and I can answer it. And I've made a promise, and I have made it all along, and I'll stick with it. If somebody is destructive, I'll block them. If you're passive aggressive, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to bring it to your awareness. And if you are in denial, I'm going to bring that to your awareness as well, in my opinion, of course. And if you, in my opinion, lack education, which sometimes being in denial and lacking education about borderline personality disorder and the codependent dynamic within that kind of relationship, then I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions and experience in an attempt to try and educate you so that you can find what you need to heal and to grow, which is the whole point of this channel. The whole point of this channel is for everybody, and I'm so grateful that borderlines are coming onto the channel and leaving comments saying that this channel, even though I in no way am trying to direct it to them, this channel has been really helpful for them. So I'm really grateful for that. But that's my goal, is for everybody to get free and happy and be full of self-confidence and self-love, find prosperity, find love, find success, and be healthy. I'm not surprised, but I'm still kind of shocked at the amount of physical actual physical illness and dysfunction and disease that comes as the result of the stress of being in these incredibly toxic relationships with untreated cluster Bs. All right? Anyway, let's get on with it. So let me read the comment here. So this comment comes from Keith. And Keith is responding to my latest video, BPD, NPD, should you leave the narcissist borderline, how to leave the relationship. So let's see, I'm going to try and get to the things that are most important. He tries to help me by diagnosing my ex-wife, and he's not the first person to say that she was had NPD, but she didn't. I appreciate the gesture, but I know the difference. She did not have NPD. She had some borderline tendencies. She was not borderline. Now that I've swum in both pools, I know each one. No, she had some tendencies. She had some issues, childhood stuff, PTSD, all that kind of stuff. But no, she was not NPD. So he talks about, the bottom line is that Keith reveals that he has history with multiple people with cluster B personalities. So that's an important thing to remember. So if you're watching and you've had multiple relationships with, hardcore borderlines or NPDs, then it's important that you listen because I'm going to be talking to you as well. So let's see, I'll just read through it and then I'll pick through the stuff I think is important. He says, it was a living nightmare for 9 years prior to 24 years ago. I came out of that marriage with PTSD. So just being married to somebody, with one of these cluster Bs can give you PTSD. Absolutely. I believe that I had PTSD as well, just after having been in that short relationship with my borderline ex-girlfriend. And he says, I now have dissociated amnesia from those 9 years. I don't remember much of anything from that marriage when I was in my 20s. So that means that it was so traumatic for him that there's whole instances he doesn't remember. He says, my last girlfriend was BPD, and it lasted for a little over a year before I finally decided a month ago to throw in the towel. It was an interesting... He says, I have learned a tremendous amount of psychology about cluster Bs and my empathic self. That's important. So listen to that. He was in a relationship. He's been in multiple toxic relationships. This last one, he gets out, and he, I'm assuming, has done self-directed research into cluster Bs and BPD. And he says, and learning about his empathic self. We'll get back to that. I mean, I wouldn't use that word empathic self. I would say codependence. And the reason why I would say codependence isn't that codependents aren't empathic, which means that they have care for other people. It's that, again, to call yourself an empath at the exclusion of also acknowledging codependence, I think minimizes the dysfunction within you. To say somebody's empathic, well, then it's easy to go, oh, he just has a big heart. But there's more to it than that. And we'll talk about that. So he says, I am in the process of working on myself. Now, he doesn't say how, but he doesn't mention that he's in any kind of therapy or doing anything else other than, from what I gather here, reading books or watching videos or doing research into psychology. And so the question is that enough? That's my question for you, and we'll talk about that. So then he goes on to give his strategy for overcoming, because I'm telling you by looking at this, he's not done with his girlfriend yet. So I'm telling you, Keith, you're still a target for her, and there's still a possibility that you could get hoovered back in. How do I know that? Because you say, after talking about how she ghosted you and cheated on you and all that, you say she will usually hoover me after 3 weeks of ghosting. I figured that so he knows whatever happens, if she leaves, she's going to be back in 3 weeks. So he knows that she's going to come back in 3 weeks. So he has a strategy, and his strategy is, she usually will hoover me after 3 weeks of ghosting. I figured the best thing for me to do is to throw in the towel and try to start courting another woman to get my mind off her. So again, he doesn't say my therapist said or my sponsor in CODA said. So he's therapizing himself. The question is that a good idea? So he says, I met someone last week. I'm focusing my attention on her instead. You're not focusing your attention on her. You're transferring. So had you been in therapy, the therapist might have said that, you're transferring. What you're doing is you're taking the feelings that you have for your girlfriend who has ghosted you, and you, because it's painful and you miss her and you want her back, instead of resolving and healing those, you're going to take that and you're going to turn it, you're going to force it and turn it on somebody else. Now you may have a problem with that, but that's really all you're doing. So the problem is that you're not seeing your new girlfriend for who she is. It's not fair to her to do that. So we'll come back to this as well. So now, of course, I had some opinions and I had to share that. I said, hi, Keith, thanks for the support, but I don't think my wife was NPD. I think we need to be very careful before diagnosing someone with a serious mental illness like NPD. Now, I said to him, based on reading your story above, I would watch my vids on being an empath, which means that's a nice way of me saying I think you need to be educated on what codependence is. And don't minimize it by calling yourself an empath. You can be a codependent and be an empath at the same time. I'm totally okay with that. I'm one. But my experience, again, people who use the word empath who are actively denying that they're codependents are using the word to not only deny their codependence, but to minimize their own dysfunction. And that's a recipe for disaster. You're not, I don't think it's a good idea. And then I say to him, interestingly enough, I say, and I would seriously look into treatment for codependency. I hope you find love, but I'm not sure that another woman is going to be the answer for you just yet. You need to address your codependency, or you will possibly attract another cluster B. So, in other words, as I said, he's got these feelings for his girlfriend, which is codependent. They're not loving feelings. This is the thing we all need to understand here. The borderline codependent relationship is not a relationship of true love from strength. I know it feels like love, but it's not. It is, just take my word for it. It is a projection. It is a transference, which means it's not real. It's not coming from the other person. It's not that the other person has given you or done something for you or showed something in you that is uniquely of them that you have decided you love. What happens is we chase after our own projection for we want to be loved and nurtured and taken care of. And so we project that on the poor little kitty or the puppy. I said this, and somebody in another comment, a borderline was asking me something to the effect of, what is it that you find attractive about the quiet borderlines? And I said, it's that they look so cute. They look like cute little puppies and kittens. And my fantasy is that I'll pick them up and then I'll hold them and I'll nurture them and then they'll love me back 100% with all that innocent love and they'll never leave me, right? That's my codependent fantasy. That's what I want for myself. Now I'm telling you this after the fact. This is all unconscious. Consciously, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's so cute and she's so needy. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be her rock. I'm going to be the one. I'm the one that can do it for her. I remember thinking that in this last one, which I should have known better, but I was thinking, oh yeah, she had all these horrible relationships. I'm going to be the one. Well, that was really my projection, because what I wanted is I want somebody to do that for me. I lost my I'm pointing because there are pictures on the cup over there. I lost my fiance, over 2.5 years ago. And so it had been about 2 years since, when I met my borderline. And, I wanted that. And I was transferring all of that onto her. I wanted to be taken care of. I wanted somebody to heal the wound within me. So the innocence, the neediness that you see in the borderline is actually your own neediness, and you're seeing it in them, and you project your unconscious desire for yourself. Unconscious means you're not aware of it. You project it consciously thinking, I'm going to heal them. But the unconscious mind is saying, I want to be healed. So it's a way of distracting yourself from what you really want. It's a way of staying in control and not taking any risks. Because to say, I'm in pain, I'd like for somebody to take care of me, I'd like to be loved and nurtured, that takes a lot more risk than saying, I will fix you, I will take care of you. And if you're like me, my thought process was just like a homeless little kitten, right? Oh, the poor baby kitten, I will love it. And of course the kitten, unless it's a BPD kitten, the kitten is going to love you back and will love you forever. Dog rescues. This is why people are into pets. Because once you love a pet, they love you, they bond with you, and they love you unconditionally forever. You can lock them up for a week, without any food. And if you open the door, they kiss your face and they wag their tail and they love you. Try doing that with a human. They'll hate you. But that's why, if you guys want to know how childish it is for a codependent, an empath, how childish it is to want to be with some broken person, thinking that if you love them, they'll turn around and love you. That's because this is your childish need inside of yourself. All right? I'm beating a dead horse here, which is not a very empathic thing to do. All right. So Right. So he goes on and he responds after I say, I don't think it's a good idea to go chasing after somebody else right now. He responds and he says, thanks, Mike, for your response. You are correct about me attracting cluster Bs over the years. This is the third one over my lifetime. That's important. Let's just sit and think about that for a moment. I know he's not the only person here that has done that. I keep seeing it over and over again. In fact, there are people that, when my channel first started out and they didn't know me very well, they were bragging about how they seek out borderlines and then know how to manipulate them for the first few weeks until they, all that stuff. And then I say, that's abuse, man. That's horrific. That's horrifically abusive. But it's also abusive to oneself because it means that you're addicted. It means that you're addicted to that kind of destructive, chaotic, damaging relationship, and you're not looking at your own pain. You know what I mean? But the thing is, if you do not address the unconscious core issue that drove you to be with the borderline or the cluster B to begin with, if you don't address that and heal it, you are guaranteed to have it happen again. And so Keith is definitely on the road to doing that, and I have my doubts as to whether or not he's going to find love this way, but we'll see. So he says that he's been attracted. He's been with 3 cluster Bs over his lifetime. And then he says, I started reading and watching videos over the last year to try and help this girl out. Now, he's not saying, but I'm assuming he's watching videos about borderline personality disorder or something like that because he's going to therapize her. He's going to help her out. He's doing his job. That's what the codependent does. Your job, as I said, is to take up the slack for your dysfunctional partner. You think you're being an empath, but you're being a codependent. You are taking your boundaries, throwing them out the window, and then having to then fix the broken person, and it's your responsibility to fix them. That's what you see yourself as. That is codependence, pure and simple. So I started, but I discovered there was something wrong with me. Good for him. And it reverts back to my childhood and first marriage. Good for him. I'm glad he figured that out. So now, this is where I know you're not done with her yet. You think that you're done, but you're not done. And you're going to reveal it here. I told my girlfriend/friend, there you go, what does that mean? Either she's your girlfriend or she's your friend. Which one is it? Well, if she's a borderline, she keeps throwing those, changing those boundaries around, so you honestly don't know. That's why. My girlfriend/friend, now that I couldn't help her with her issues that she had, to get into counseling and help herself. Hopefully you told her what kind of counseling. In this case, normally I don't think it's a good idea to tell people what they need. If somebody's got a real problem, I don't think you should say, hey, what you need is you just say, hey man, go get some help. In this case, borderline personality disorder is such a specific mental illness that is easily overlooked and misdiagnosed. And people with BPD, if they go into counseling with somebody that's not prepared for a borderline, can easily be manipulated or not understand and either think that they are depressed or bipolar. But also the borderline, they're very good. They're extremely good at saying exactly what needs to be said, and they might even be talking out of an awareness that they're having. The problem is they have a mental illness that prevents them from linking that to forward-thinking action. It disappears the moment that they have the awareness. The awareness doesn't give them the power to take the necessary action, which is what therapy is all about in terms of relationships. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a deeply held awareness. It could just be floating around in their conscious mind superficially, and it'll fly out of their head, the moment an impulse comes up. So just because she's in therapy doesn't mean that she's in the right kind of therapy. So I recommend, if you know or believe that your partner has borderline, you get the hell out. On the way out, you say, and I strongly recommend you go see somebody about borderline personality disorder. Now you've put the seed into their head, and it's up to them to decide what they want to do because it's their life. Right? So You told her she had to get counseling and help herself. I told her we both have to work on ourselves before we could proceed in a relationship. What does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, but there's, that's just words. You have to have more than that. And it's not your job to give her all those things. She has to find that for herself with a therapist. I will stay friends with her and support her in her time of need, but I told her that I am not going to proceed in a relationship because I also have to work on myself. I have some problems with that, but let me read, because I think you're going to tell me why I have problems with it. So you say, I agree with you that I need to keep working on myself to resolve issues I have before I get involved in another relationship. Well, if you believe that, then why are you trying to have a relationship right off the bat with somebody that you're trying to use to distract yourself from the feelings you have? So you just contradicted yourself. Did you change your mind? You telling me what I want to hear? I'll be able to read through that in a second. Please don't try and placate me. I'll know it. I have a really good nose for that. I have been taking the friend approach with other women so that I don't jump into the fire anymore. Why do you need to take a friend approach with women? It doesn't make sense. You're in denial here. The friend approach means that you're wanting to date. You're wanting to be romantic because you're seeking women out. Now, in the days in my life when I have been there, I was a celibate monk for 6.5 years. I mean, I went celibate and was meditating and martial arts and no women and all that. I mean, it was really clear. I wasn't dating anybody. Now, I had friends of both sexes, but I never once said to myself, I'm going to take the friend approach with women, because that means that you're still seeking women out for a connection, but you're telling yourself you're just friends. Does that mean that you're having sex with them? Are you allowing them? Are they attracted to you? Are you dating them? Are they F buddies? There's something in there. It's still romantic. You're telling yourself you're just friends. You're not going to jump into the fire, but it's obvious that you're wanting more from them than that. And I think you're setting yourself up, because you're going to set yourself up on the friend approach, and then she's going to convince you, and you're going to go, you know what, you're different, you're worth it. And then the next thing you know, you're with your next borderline. Perhaps. So I think you're in denial there, my friend. And then he gives his definition, which I don't agree with at all. He says, if you are friends with a girl for 3 to 6 months before becoming exclusive, it is easier to tell if they are wearing a mask. Where did you come up with that? And this arbitrary thing of being a friend for 3 to 6 months, does that mean that she wants to be with you? Is she waiting around for you to decide not to be friends with her anymore? I mean, it just has so much dysfunction in it. And what girl, ladies, how many ladies would want that? Would want to have a guy say to you, hey, yeah, let's go out. I'll take you out to dinner. We're just going to be friends. Does that mean you're sleeping with them? I bet you're sleeping with them. But, we're just friends, and we're going to see what's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months before I commit. I mean, who wants to do that? If you're going to be celibate, be celibate. And then you can have friends of both sexes. If you're going to date, date. But this idea that you can protect yourself because you were friends, what does that mean for 3 to 6 months before becoming exclusive? Okay, so that's what it is. It's becoming exclusive. So you want to sleep with them, you want to date them. You just don't want to be in a exclusive, committed relationship. But the idea that you can be dating a bunch of women and not be committed, and that's going to give you the ability to see through their mask, is an absolute, total non sequitur. Because, and listen, I have nothing against any of this. I'm okay if somebody wants to have multiple relationships or be polyamorous. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want. My only thing is be conscious of what you're doing. Be clear on what you're doing and be conscious of it. You're not conscious of what you're doing because if you're not exclusive, the only way to find out who somebody is after getting exclusive. In fact, if you really want to find out who somebody is, you marry them. But this idea that you're going to figure them out before you commit and then you'll be safe is absolute nonsense. Humans don't work like that. Relationships don't work like that. Listen, here's the thing about trust. Trust is, if God sent you a postcard and said, you're going to have $1 million and you'll be healthy until you're 75 and then you'll die. you can't turn around and say, I'm going to trust God for my life. Because he's already told you exactly what it's going to be. So you know it has nothing to do with trust. Trust is a choice, and it's a risk. Trust is when you entrust your heart to somebody not knowing what they're going to do. You're choosing to do that. You're not doing any of this. This idea that you're now somehow going to protect yourself by putting all these arbitrary stuff isn't going to work, number one. Number two, dating a bunch of people without an exclusive commitment guarantees that you will never get beyond their mask. Because there's no commitment. There's no reason for them to show them their true selves because you're testing them. If they know that, and you've said this, I don't want to commit, then they're not going to show you their true self. I wouldn't. If I was with a woman and she's like, listen, and we were dating and being sexual and we both agreed that we were going to date other people and I really started liking her, I'm not going to show her my true self. Because she's already told me she's not committed to me. I'm going to show her my true self when she wants to be with me and I want to be with her. So my friend, seriously, I think you're in a lot of denial here. And denial means that you're playing a game with yourself. You're lying to yourself. And I'm just going to get right into it. This is why you go to counseling. Because a counselor is going to help you. Doing what you're doing, which is, like this, you're watching videos, which is a, first off, researching psychology is a part of your brain that is totally disconnected from your feelings. Researching, oh, this is that, borderline personality disorder is this, and that is that. That's one part of your brain. There's another part of your brain that says, I feel this and I feel that and I'm afraid and I'm in pain and I'm lonely and I'm mad. And that's another whole part of your brain. And the whole thing about therapy is that you are entrusting yourself to somebody who is then, you're trusting them to reflect back to you honestly and accurately what's going on inside of you so that you can take a look at yourself, feel your feelings, and heal and grow. Everything you've mentioned are strategies to avoid your feelings and to stay isolated within yourself so that nobody gets to see who you really are. So I know that you think you're working on yourself, and there's nothing wrong with researching. I do it all the time. But you're not working on yourself because, as I said, a brain surgeon cannot do brain surgery on themselves. They have to get another brain surgeon to do it, and they have to entrust themselves in the skilled hands of somebody else. Even if you're the best brain surgeon in the world, you're going to have to find number two and entrust them to do brain surgery on you if that's what you need. You aren't qualified, my friend, to work on yourself. You're not qualified to do it. It shows a narcissism, and we all have it. Listen, this is why I keep hammering away. And you're not the first person to come on here and say that you're going to basically therapize yourself. I mean, strangely enough, a lot of people say that. Especially when I say, you need to go to Codependence Anonymous or you need to get a therapist. Oh, well, I have my friends and, and it's too expensive. And look, if you were dying of cancer, you would spend whatever money you had. If somebody had a cure, and it cost $500,000, you would beg and borrow and steal to get that $500,000 to get the cure. So the money, I understand that. But if you really want something, you will find a way. If you really want to get free therapy, you can find it. There's a way to get it. If you look hard enough, you can find it. And again, coda.org, coda.org. That's free for everybody. And I'm sure they have resources for therapists. So nobody here has an excuse. There's no excuse that anybody's going to give me that I'm going to co-sign for you. It's not going to happen. All right, let's keep going here. And then he says, I think you're doing a good job, Mike. You have a calling as a counselor in the future. Thank you. I already am a counselor. I'm a spiritual counselor, but I'm not a therapist, which is why I don't take on clients here. This is just me sharing my thoughts and my feelings. You guys have to go do your own work with the actual professionals in this field. I'm sure as hell not going to do that, but I appreciate the compliment. Keep up the good work. I can relate to you because we are similar in nature and have had similar experiences. I will keep in touch with responses in the future because I study extensively psychology, and sometimes it is good to have a good debate. Are you saying that you want to have a debate with me? Because here's where it's going to come in. And here the final, just a little bit of passive aggressiveness comes out, and you say, when it comes to the vastness of the mind, we can all have different perspectives and opinions. So you haven't said it, but I think what you're saying there is, in a very nice way, hey, Mike, screw you. I'm not going to go get therapy. You don't have the only answer. There's so much out there. I'm going to do that. And then you and I can have a friendly debate, which means I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do what you're suggesting. When it comes to certain things, there are certain methodologies that need to get done. Is my way the only way? I can't say that it is. Is it possible for somebody to potentially have the awareness to heal themselves? I can't say that that's impossible. What is the likelihood of somebody who has deeply entrenched unconscious issues to the point that they get involved with cluster B personalities throughout their entire adult life? What is the likelihood of that person being able to honestly look at themselves, take the risk and change themselves and see themselves objectively? It is virtually impossible. And again, if you're on my channel, as you say, you respect what I'm doing, you're watching my videos because you find it helpful, you relate to me. If you relate to me that, well, here's what I did. I've been in therapy for over 25 years. When I got out of this relationship with the borderline ex, now ex, I went straight to him and he helped me because he was trained in that. I then went to Codependence Anonymous and I worked the 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous. I then continued to do my daily spiritual practice and I healed fast, really fast. I didn't think I was going to. I was in so much pain and I had never felt so broken. And I even said, I'm on some of these videos, I say, I think I'm broken. I don't think I'm ever going to recover from this. I think I said things like, I'm going to carry this scar around with me forever. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust anyone ever again. I don't know that I'll ever be able to find love. I was saying that for a couple of months. And then right around 2 months of me doing this stuff, I'm not saying you're going to get cured in 2 months, probably not, because I've been doing this stuff my whole life. But the point is that I went from an incurable state that physically was destroying me, mentally and emotionally debilitating me, to being where I'm at now, where I'm in a state of recovery. I don't feel any sadness about my borderline ex. I don't feel any anger. I don't feel any resentment. I don't have any illusions about it. In fact, I can't even remember now that I think about it. Was there ever really any love there? I don't think it was. I know now what I was doing and what she was doing. I wasn't there. If you talked to me right afterwards, I would have said, I don't know how I'm going to go on in my life without her. I don't know how I can function without her. Is she thinking about me right now? If she just goes to therapy, if I can just get her to understand, maybe I should just get her on the phone and just explain it to her, because then that's where I was. Now, you've heard me say everything that I have to say about it, but there's no pain there anymore. So my friend Keith, while it's possible that you are capable of finding within the vastness of the mind some other method that nobody else has found, the best scenario is to find people who have what you want and then ask them, how did you get there? And if you watch my channel because you think I have something that you want, it wasn't because I therapized myself. So I don't think it's going to work for you either. I do think that you are definitely setting yourself up for the next borderline, especially this idea of being friends with a woman and not being exclusive and all of that. And like you said, I don't think that you've changed your mind. You changed your tune a little bit because I told you I didn't think it was a good idea. But you said very clearly twice, you said that you believe that working on yourself and dating other women is one thing, because you put it in the same sentence. You say, I'm in the process of working on myself, and I started talking to other more normal women to get my mind off the girlfriend with BPD. So that is your strategy. You made that very clear. And then you said it a second time towards the end. I'm focusing my attention on her instead. You've only known her for a week. You say, I met her last week and I'm focusing my attention on her instead. You also said earlier that you have a 3-week window, so you're going to find, that's what the borderline does. You've been infected. You're acting like a borderline. They jump from one person to the next. They use another person to get them away from the bad person. Do you see that? So I'm not telling you not to date. It doesn't sound like a great idea. It sounds like you're not capable of being there for another person in any significant way, because you are, as I said, you're transferring your feelings for your borderline onto this new woman. And if she's not a borderline, then you're going to lose interest in her real quick, and or she's going to lose interest in you. So I would recommend getting some help. Go to codependenceanonymous.org to start off with and start learning how to heal yourself. Because, it's like saying, that I'm on heroin, so I'm going to start taking Vicodin instead of heroin. I'm going to take Vicodin to get me off of opiates. That's all that's happening here. And so anyway, I just want to point that out. The bottom line here is, Keith, you need help. You're not going to be able to figure this out on your own. And again, I would look into codependence, not being an empath. And I said everything else that I need to say. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I hope, Keith, that's okay with you that I said what I had to say. My real intention here is to take this interaction for others who feel, because Keith isn't alone. I'm not pointing him out like he's the bad person in class, because 95% of the class feels exactly the way he does and thinks the same way he does. I know I have. I'm sitting here listening to myself, realizing all the ways that I did, a lot of those same things as I was coming out of my relationship with my borderline ex. So you're not alone, Keith. Everybody says, it's so funny because, when people come up with, Keith's thing about, I'm going to continue to research psychology, which, what does that mean? I'm going to research psychology and the vastness of the mind, as though you're the first person to say something like that. But it does. We have this feeling like we've found the one thing, and my way is a little different than everybody else, and we say it with pride, but in reality, it's somebody who's decided they're going to become a brain surgeon. Without going to college, without, training. You're going to now go heal yourself, even though your whole life you've been in some really destructive relationships, which means you don't know what the heck's going on inside of you. You're starting to figure out, like you said, some of it came from your previous marriage and from your childhood. Great, you're on the road. It's not enough, because it's not keeping you from wanting to be friends with women for 3 to 6 months in non-exclusive relationships while you study psychology and use them to distract you from the borderline that you're missing. Right? So you get it? I'm repeating myself here. Yeah, you're just going to end up finding another borderline without realizing it. So anyway, my suggestion for everybody, if you don't know, if you're in a relationship with an untreated borderline, again, this is not for people who are with people who have been in therapy and you're happy. This is for people who are in pain and unhappy. If you're in a relationship with an untreated borderline, my suggestion is to get out. And the way you get out is you do the kindest, most loving thing for them possible. Now, that's why you stayed in it, and that's why you're going to get out. And what you're going to do that is the kindest, most loving thing for them is to tell them that you're going to leave the relationship and you're going to go no contact for your own health, because the relationship is damaging to you and you need to go take care of yourself. Then you're going to say, if they want you to stay, if they want you in your life, instead of what Keith is doing, you're not going to stay friends with them for, in their time of need, because that doesn't help them. That's like saying to a drug addict, you should get off drugs, but if you really need some, I got some heroin right here, and I'll give it to you if you need it. You are their drug. You got to get out of their life. You got to let them, they'll find somebody else if they're not going to get help. Or, we need to allow them to be in the space so that they can realize, hey, there's something wrong with me. I need to get help. So you say, I'm going to get out of the relationship for my own health. I'm going to go no contact. And if they want you in your life, then you say, I would love that. What I would like for you to do is to go to therapy with a therapist who deals with borderline personality disorder regularly for a year. And at the end of that year, I'll let you contact me and I will meet you at your therapist's office and we can discuss where to go from there. And that is the kindest thing you can do for them. You are not helping them. You are keeping them sick. You are sticking, the same as sticking a needle in the neck of an addict every time you go back and try and help them. You need to let them alone. And then you need to go to therapy yourself, look at your own codependence. You need to go to coda.org and start going to Codependence Anonymous meetings and work those 12 steps. Find a sponsor. Say, I'm new here. I need a sponsor to walk me through the steps. And then start practicing something on a daily basis, meditation, yoga, tai chi, something that connects you to something greater than yourself. You do that every single day to the best of your ability. You don't have to be perfect. Do it to the best of your ability and you will heal. You will be able to have healthy, loving relationships. You will be able to drop the pain, the torturous, sadness, confusion, insanity, shame, guilt, PTSD, all that stuff can be healed if you do those three things. How long it's going to take you, I don't know. But I guarantee you, if you do those three things to the best of your ability, I guarantee you your life will get better. And there's a very good chance that you can completely recover and heal from the horrible experience of having, been in those really horrible, toxic relationships. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time.